Evening, everybody. Here I am again, Uncle Fester. All right, we're on this evening again. Child Maintenance Services, formerly the CSA. More fictitious arrears, more hounding of individuals, and we've got a special guest on tonight. All right, we've got a guest on tonight. Noel. He's coming on to talk about his experience. Another father. All right. Who faces alienation, faces actual discrimination, alienation from CMS, the Child Maintenance Services. And the best thing is with Noel actually, take my hat off to him, all right? He's a reservist. He was mobilised on COVID-19, so he's got his little bit to say on COVID-19. And Circle, we covered Circle last week. If you didn't see it, go and have a look at it. We'll mention more today, all right? But Noel is here. He's been battling. Another father who openly admits, yes, CMS, the child maintenance support, if you've got a child out there, yes, child's got to be paid for. Your children have got to be paid for. And what he's been through is horrific. You're going to listen to this now. All right, please listen to it because it just shows more every time. All right, I'm going to bring Bully Biscuit on because Bully Biscuit knows Noel firsthand. So I'll bring Bully on first. Bully Biscuit, how are you, son?
Evening all.
Do you have a good weekend?
Not too bad, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad, mate. I'm a bit tired. I've had a bit of a kick in this weekend. So, yeah. So, Noel, should we bring him on? Bring the big man on. Noel, how are you, son?
I'm all right, Uncle Fester. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Yeah, not bad. So, yeah, I've had Bully's been, he's been talking about you quite a lot to me. We've had a little bit of a talk, all right, and thank you very much firstly for coming on, all right, and tell me about yourself and tell me the ups and downs you've had with the CMS.
Right, basically through the family courts I've been fighting to see my daughter through the family courts for pretty much 8 years now, right. And my daughter's 9. So ever since pretty much my daughter's been born, I've just had nightmares with contact, basically what the mother wants to do in terms of contact, when I can see my daughter, etc., etc. Yeah. I was paying for my child, happy to pay for Eva. I've got a pretty good job.
Yeah.
And, I was very happy to pay for her, buy her everything that she needs. And unfortunately, the house that she was living in, there was 3 other children that she had with another partner.
Okay, yeah.
And both parents refused to work.
Right.
So they are claiming benefits from the government. And I was, like I say, giving my daughter a nice life, and apparently it started causing a lot of animosity with the other children. So all of a sudden, yeah.
I can understand that. I can see where that comes from, especially if they're not going to work, and potentially they're taking from the state, but they're also taking from they also potentially could be taking from your child as well, and the jealousy creeps in with the other children, and that's quite bad on the children as well. So I'm sorry to hear that, but carry on.
Ironically, with the money that I was giving her, the money that she was receiving in benefits and what the family was receiving in benefits, she was having a nice life. Don't worry about that. Yeah, she was having a nice life. But, we didn't know each other. It was of a very, very brief affair. She doesn't know me. I don't know her. She doesn't really know anything about me. And the issues is when you have a child with somebody and you've made the choice to have that child and you get yourself into this, you know, sometimes things don't always work out the way that you want them to. And if I'd made a choice that my daughter was going to have everything, then that was a choice that I made, because that's the sort of person that I am.
I respect you for that. Definitely.
It sounds harsh. It sounds harsh. But one thing that Craig loves about me is just that I'm honest. And I'm like Marmite. You either love me or you hate me. And the other 3 children are not my responsibility. They have a dad.
Yeah.
And what he chooses to buy them is what he chooses to buy them. And I kept it very, very regimental. I kept it very regimental. I kept everything very brief with the mother, and I kept things very brief with them. And my only concern was my daughter.
Yes. Can I ask you a question? Because I'll tell you why I'm going down this route is because my brother's gone through exactly the same. 2 children with a woman. And he's had 1 child. She's got 2 other previous children. And he was alienated. And he went through, you know, and it was saddening for the family to watch. Has your family been alienated as well? How much do you get to see it and stuff like that?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. I've been alienated. It was identified by CAFCAS. The judge did nothing about it. Even my mother was alienated against my daughter as well. So, which brings me on to the child maintenance. So there was a lot of things. There's a bit of a story here that's going to unfold, and it's quite a shocking story. And Bully is well aware of what's gone on in that house, and it's actually a very, very, very heartbreaking story. But also the events around it are extremely serious, which is going to lead us down quite a dark path. But I believe that these are things that need to be discussed. And I believe that these are things that the public need to be made aware of as to what is going on in the secret family courts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this leads on to the child maintenance. So my daughter started saying things to me in contact about the family, which didn't really make too much sense to me.
No.
So I started questioning the mother. As a concerned father would be.
Yeah.
And, you know, she used to say my mummy and my daddy because the man who she lives with she was brought up to believe that was her father. So I was always known as daddy number 2. So they were openly lying to the child, which was condoned by CAFCAS. And it was completely condoned by the family court and condoned by Child Protection Services. And when I raised my concerns, no, this is an idyllic family. You know, we have no concerns at all with regards to what's going on in the house. So when I challenged the mother about things that my daughter was saying to me, contact then started becoming very, very difficult. All of a sudden, she said to me, one day, I want to have a meeting with you. So I went and met her in Chesham, and she said to me, you owe me £700 in maintenance. And I said, please explain that to me. She said, well, some months have 31 days in them and other months have 28 days in them. And I work out what you've given me on a weekly basis, and you owe me £700. So I basically said, that's not going to happen. So she said, right, contact stops. So contact stopped. Then it was off to see the solicitor because that's what we're led to believe is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
To see a solicitor. He took the case on. We got her into court. Then it was all the time. It was supervised contact. Now, this is a man who has served his country. I'm a commander as well, in the Reserve Army.
Yeah.
And it had to be supervised contact at all times, and it just wasn't progressing from supervised contact, which puzzled me. So as a result of that, it went to a hearing, because now what she started doing was breaching the orders. So now it was costing me £255 to enforce those orders. Then when it got back in front of the judge would turn around and say, oh, I believe everything that you're saying to me, Mr. Wilcox. However, also, I'm going to take into account that your daughter didn't want to go and see you. So does that mean then that my daughter is being alienated against me?
Yeah, but if she's breaching the order, you're getting financially punished again. And Craig, this is what I can't really understand, is how the father, like Noel, is getting punished, supervisory, to meet the child. It's all wrong. How can they justify that?
Well, they're making money from under the contact centres and all of that. You're having to pay every time you go to the contact centre. So they're on a spinner.
Here's the question. Right, we know who runs most of the helplines. Who runs them centres? Noel, did you know who they were?
Right, Serco have the contract for all of the contact centres as well. And they employ most of the staff, they recruit most of the staff that go to those contact centres. So
you would go to a contact centre. How long would you have with your child in that contact centre? Usually
an hour. It was normally an hour. So contact then progressed to Kids Zone in Berkhamsted, which was a private. That's what I insisted on.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't get out of supervised. So I'm like, all the judge wants to do is just rubber stamp it, because it's a so-called human right that you have a relationship with your child. So they kind of have to rubber stamp something, because I don't even think the family courts would be as blatant as to say you cannot see your child, because it is a human right, whether you've committed sexual offences, whether you're a mass murderer, whether you're Al Capone, whether you're part of the Mexican cartel, you have the right to see your child. In fact, it's Article 8, isn't it, Craig, of the Human Rights Act? You have a right to a family life. Is it not?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Article 8, that's right to a family life, yeah.
Yeah, you have a right to a family life. So they can't stop you from seeing your child, but what they can do is make it difficulty level 79.
But have they got to give you a reason, or they just put it in place without a reason?
No, it's the mother. The mother insists that it has to be supervised, so the judge just rubber stamps it every single time. Now, I don't know the system. I don't know this system, whereas she was very educated on the system. I'd never even heard of contact centres. I didn't know what they were. I barely even knew how the runnings of a family court, went. But as we're all led to believe, Uncle Fester and Craig, we're led to believe that courts work on evidence. That's what we're led to believe. The criminal courts, the police couldn't just say, this person committed armed robbery and he did it. The family courts is completely different to how the criminal justice system operates.
I'm a little bit alarmed by how the family courts really, without evidence, they're discriminating as well. They're breaching.
They're so biased.
They're breaching their own systems.
Well, when you start talking about things such as your disclosure laws, and you start looking into that you're innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there's never any evidence. That is how the law works in this country. You know, I mean, I remember when I went on my jury service, you know, the judge really honed it in, you know, that you know, this person is innocent until proven guilty, because they do not want you to form an opinion of what that person has done until you have heard all of the evidence. Well, the family courts is completely different. They're secret. It's this secrecy of the family courts, and they're all living under the banner of the child. Yeah, we must do this to protect the child. We must do that to protect the child. We must do this because we must protect the child. And that's what they've led the British public to believe, that they are acting in the best interests of the child, because that's all that we ever hear. So when the brown envelope comes through the door from the Child Maintenance Service, so sorry, I've jumped the gun a little bit there. So basically, you know, I told her that the £700 was not going to be coming her way. So then she started down the road of going to the CMS. Yeah. So the CMS got in touch with me in 2017, but they went back to my income of 2015-16, because that's when I went for a mortgage. So that was their most attractive year to them. So
cherry-picking tax years.
Cherry-picking tax years. Yeah, because that was the most attractive one to them. So she made the claim in August 2017. They went back to my tax year 2015-16, and they said that's what you have to pay. And then the minute I was writing to them at that point, and all of my letters were ignored. I was sending them recorded delivery, no signatures. Yeah, no signatures. Nothing ever landed when it was going to the Child Maintenance Service. Everything that was sent recorded delivery was sent back to the Royal Mail.
What? Oh, yeah.
I've got all of my receipts still.
Email them. It's always a coconut every time when you email them.
But when you send something recorded delivery,
somebody's got to sign for it.
Someone's got to sign for it. But everything was sent back to the Royal Mail, and I've still got the receipts to this day, because I am going to have my day in court. We are going to have our day in court when we are heard.
But I'm going to quickly stop you with there, because I'm going to point something out. You've said something about the law, all right, and what they say. And I don't know, have you seen this? No? Our client charter from CMS?
No.
This is a client charter that CMS is supposed to work to. And they say, our commitment to you, you're the client. We keep the interests of your child at the heart of everything we do. And we do this by working with you to provide a service that helps you easily manage your child maintenance arrangements. We will be responsive, reliable, respectful. All right? And it goes back to what you just said about the law as well. It seems to be everything is in the child's interest, but it's not. Nothing's in the child's interest, because they alienate and discriminate the payer. And they take the person who is put in the case, they take their evidence without even listening to you.
So basically it's a game of Russian roulette. The minute that your name is handed to the Child Maintenance Service, you know, the resident parent can phone up CMS, because I don't want to sit here and say it's all mothers, because it's some fathers as well. So we will say the RP, the resident parent. I'm going to come on to something in a minute. It's even going to shock you even more to the core. So when I was getting nowhere with the Child Maintenance Service, what was my other option? To go and see my MP. So I went to go and see my MP. I don't want to give his name at this stage.
Understand that.
It's not fair. He's been very supportive, and he has met myself, and he has met Craig, because he is a knight of the realm. And with him, he does believe that what is right and what is wrong is wrong. Yeah?
Yeah.
And he said to me, the very unfortunate thing that I cannot stand about the child maintenance service is that I've got a number of men in my constituency who have residency of their children. And the mother refuses to pay for the child. They go through the same formality with the CMS,
Yeah.
yet the CMS do not take any action against the mother. So he goes online, he pays his £20, his application fee of £20. He fills out the necessary forms, the necessary documents, and they'll just come back 9 times out of 10, and they'll say, "I'm terribly sorry, but you know, we can't chase them because of this reason or that reason or whatever." But when you're a man,
sexism.
It's sexism, and they are violating the equality laws in this country.
We've got 2 cases we've shared on you. Ian Briggs lost his son Gavin, July this year, ex-veteran, veteran. Sorry, Craig. All right, he was a veteran.
I'm a religious man, Uncle Fester, so I'm just going to bless myself. And God bless that man. God bless that man.
And we're trying to get solicitors to take it on now because he's struggling at the moment. But he was looking after his child, and he brought his child up for many years, and they never once went for the actual ex-partner. And we've also got another gentleman who, yeah, he had the same as well. We've had 2, but you know, it's a sad fact. It does happen. And
I know quite a few cases where the guy has got the child and the CMS, CSA are not interested. But as soon as the woman's got the child, oh dear, oh dear.
But that's sexism. That's equality. That's breaching equalities. That's alienating, discriminating, and then wait there, Craig. Then you've got that by the service provider who we just seen the charter, who you were their client, and potentially we wonder why it happens with the actual parents as well, the man and the women, because it's happening on both sides, but it's more on women's side. And it's this. What really gets me today is I 100% go with equality with women. All right, I support it, and at the end of the day, but our own system's not supporting it. You know, if they want equality, then they've got to be treated equal, not with CMS.
Well, look, this is where you know, Uncle Fester. This is where, you know, I didn't really know where to go, so I started doing my own research on the CMS, because even my MP wrote to the CMS. Very alarmingly, they basically said to him to go and do one, but in a carefully crafted letter. I also had received a response from Esther McVeigh, but you know, I won't discuss the details of everything because we'd be here all night otherwise. You know, but she had realised an awful lot of failings on behalf of the CMS. Esther McVeigh. And it's just very funny that I find that when these MPs start looking into things, that all of a sudden they're moved on. You know, this is the thing. And whatever we think of Esther McVeigh or what we don't, she had identified an awful lot of CMS wrongdoing, particularly in my case. You know, at the end of the day, if a Knight of the Realm writes to you and says, I'm very concerned about my constituent, I've seen the evidence, they're cherry picking tax years, could you please look into it? And then when an MP looks into it and it's a bundle of lies that comes back, it raises a lot of concerns. And then does that MP who is responsible for that department start asking uncomfortable questions all of a sudden, does the PM or whoever it is get a telephone call and says, dear old boy or dear old girl, you couldn't move this one on, could you? Because causing too many problems, my dear friend.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I tell you who seem to take, who are not in office for a very long time, are the justice ministers.
Yeah.
Because when they start looking at things that are going on, you know, even David Gork, who had made mistakes with on his watch, he didn't personally make mistakes, but on his watch, all to do with that, was it War Boys or something like that, that cab driver, that case, where he was released on parole early, or it was something like that. I didn't really pay too much attention to it. But it just seems to be that all of these justice ministers have just moved on very quickly. And sometimes I think we have to sit back and ask ourselves the question, why? Which is what I did. So I started making my own research. I started gaining my own knowledge of things that had go on. And then we came on, and then I found CSA ripoffs. That's where I met Craig, because I'd sent a few things on there. Craig said, hold on a minute, I think this guy knows what he's talking about. And what my concerns was the content of the letters that are written to you were saying things such as the client services manager, the client this, and the way that they were talking, like some of the letters that they were writing were saying the customer, the service that we provide, all this sort of stuff. And I thought, hold on a minute, they're acting like they are a limited company.
Yes. And
their systems certainly would portray that this is a limited company that is talking to you, because government just doesn't talk like that. HMRC, if they write to you, they don't say to you, you're their customer, and you know, it's just a completely different terminology.
It is a different terminology, which I'm finding, which is unbelievable. I have to do my research. So and we're going to come on to that in a bit. But going back,
can I just jump? Let me. I do have screenshots of the child support agency being on some sort of, not company's house, but some company check or wherever it was, and the registered there is an unlimited company.
Right.
Yeah, is that where we found
Duncan Smith as well?
Is that where we found that CCJs had been registered against? Yes, where we found CCJs that had been registered against the child support agency. It wasn't actually CMS, was it? But it was the child support agency, and they had a number of CCJs that were registered against them. So I would just ask the sort of question, hold on a minute, are these people a limited company who are acting on behalf of the government? Yeah, on behalf of the government. And all of the evidence started pointing towards the fact that it was a limited company. And then when we started sending emails to the CMS, they did get very uncomfortable when we put it to them that they were acting like a limited company. They got very uncomfortable, and then they got nasty, and then they went for their liability order, and they started doing this and they started doing that. And then I was getting, some weekends I would get maybe 5 or 6 brown envelopes. But you know what? They started carrying on like institutional bullies.
Yeah.
And everybody who knows me, you're not going to bully me.
Why did I bully? I know that. I can tell that.
You're not going to bully me. And I said to Craig, as stressful as what it got when they were going for their liability order in Norwich, knowing full well that they had cherry picked my income. You know, anybody with half a brain cell can say that they made the claim, that the mother had made the claim in August 2017. They went back to my tax year 15-16. It does not reflect your true income. And that is where my MP had my back.
Yeah. And that's good, because MPs are only in there for 4 years. It's a big institute, and everybody knows. Unfortunately, the only thing that doesn't change, the army's a big institute. When you get in there, we all try and beat the system, and you can't beat the system. You've got to work with the system and work inside the system. MPs are not even in there long enough. It's the civil servants behind and the private businesses which are coming through, the corporations. And that's the problem we've got. We've got a lot of MPs that are struggling. One MP's just left because he's struggling.
I completely agree with that statement that you've just made. And we are in a very, very dangerous place here, because the civil servants, as you're saying, they're not elected.
No.
They're in these positions permanently, but even more worrying is that all of these judges in our judiciary, they're not elected either, and they are there to stay. And they have proved that over Brexit. The Supreme Court overrode Boris Johnson. Whether you were a Brexiteer or whether you're a Remainer, we're not here to discuss politics.
No.
It's completely irrelevant. At the end of the day, Boris Johnson was voted in with a huge majority to push Brexit through. In my opinion, that was the second referendum, because I know all you lot up north love Labour and you hate the Conservatives. Me and Bully have had quite a few conversations regarding that. But all the Northerners, which must have killed them, absolutely killed them inside, and I'm sure that their ancestors were turning in their graves, voted Conservative.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court completely squashed that decision. Yeah. They went against the people. But listen, we don't want to get sidetracked, but all we're doing is just making it very clear as to what's going on.
I want to go back to your case. So I want to delve a bit deeper into you were in the area of the courts, and your welfare concerns. I noted welfare concerns in there.
Right.
Do you want to share any with me?
The toxic trio was identified, wasn't it?
Yeah, so basically what happened was Craig and myself for a good year were making numerous attempts to the CMS saying that there's something going on in the house because my daughter was not getting to school.
Yeah.
So her attendance at school was absolutely shocking. I was contacting social services. They would come back to me and say, that they're not going to investigate it. And at one point, which was in April 2019, I actually phoned social services. I said, my daughter is not getting to school. Her attendance was something like 76%. And I turned around and I said, I believe that there must be some sort of drugs use going on the premises, because all the combat indicators that were there was for somebody who uses drugs in an evening, can't get up and take the child to school in the morning. That was a big combat indicator for me. So got told by social services yet again, no, we're not investigating it. Everything's perfect in that house, and so be it. So I managed to obtain my daughter's medical records, and I had to go through a lot of formalities in terms of parental responsibility and that sort of stuff to find out where her doctor's surgery was. And in that package, to my astonishment, I found an internal email from Buckinghamshire Social Services to my GP surgery that the mother and the father had been arrested for the suspicious death of the grandmother.
What?
And there was a live police investigation going on by Thames Valley Police. Also,
prior to this, Null was saying that there was serious welfare concerns and he was ill with worry about his daughter due to these welfare concerns. And they were just ignoring it. CMS ignoring it. We're not interested. Shut up and pay your money. And so welfare of the child right there is
we told them numerous times, Uncle Fester, numerous times about Section 2 of the Child Support Act. That's Craig's department. If Craig would just like to explain what Section 2 of the Child Support Act is.
I've got Section 2 here, Craig. Wait there.
Section 2 is a statutory duty. It's not discretionary, it's the statutory duty. And you can tell it's the statutory duty by the word shall.
Well, where he says, at the end of the day, it's an act, so it's law, all right? 1991, Child Support Act, Section 2, Welfare of the Children, the general principle, where in any case which falls to be dealt with under the Act, the Secretary of State or any child support officer is considered the exercise of any discretion power conferred by this Act. He shall have regard to the welfare of any child likely to be affected by his decision.
And the operative word there is shall, which means that is a discretion. It's a statutory obligation.
Yes.
The word shall, that is the word shall.
Shall ensure, you got a lot of, and shall is a very strong word and regard as well,
That's how you recognise it's statutory.
But I'm going to go back. My biggest concern there is as well, there's an investigation going on. You've actually got to go and get
a live investigation that's going on. This is yet again where the bias and the discrimination comes in against the father. Social services, 14 days later, I found out after the arrest, 14 days later, I still hadn't heard a word from any of the authorities.
And
my daughter was taken into care.
What?
My daughter was taken into care. My daughter was taken into care whilst forensics went into the property, all with their outfits on, briefcases, the whole bit, and a tent was set up outside the premises, and the police carried out, I believe, a 3-day search of the house.
Right. There's a feeling there. At the end of the day, first person they should have contacted is you. That child's mental health, at the end of the day, and mental well-being should have actually been considered straight away, and they should have phoned you straight away. And you should have she shouldn't be going to care. She should be coming straight to you. You're her father. This is the best bit's about to come now. So I said to social services, where did my daughter go when she was taken into care? The mother suggested a friend that we could drop the children off to. So I said, yet again, even though the mother has been arrested for the suspicious death of her own mother, you have asked her where the child would go because you, at that point, would still not enter your mindset to contact the father to see if the child could stay with her biological father. But bearing in mind, the mother and her partner were both arrested. So my daughter went to stay with some random people. I have no idea who they were. I was affected.
That goes to show and illustrates how biased the whole system is. Now, if the mother was raising welfare concerns to the CMS, would it be a different outcome?
Well,
quite possibly would, because the mother.
False allegations false allegations
Right.
go around.
So the mother phoned CMS and said that my lifestyle does not reflect my true income, with no evidence at all, just a phone call. Next day, Financial Investigations Unit, FIU, letters started arriving on my door.
They were all on you like a tramp on hot chips, weren't they?
They were all over me. A Financial Investigations Unit from Department of Work and Pensions. But my welfare concerns were completely ignored. Just totally ignored. But with no evidence, not a single stroke of evidence, she can phone up and say that my lifestyle does not reflect my true income. And they were all over me. Turned my company account inside out and backwards, wanted to know where dividend payments were going, wanted to know the lot. But you see, the thing is with me, yet again, I thought, you know what, they're not going to bully me. Yeah. And I can see why so many men collapsed under that pressure. Yeah. And in all fairness, Craig was holding me together and I stayed strong. And then I wrote back to them and I said to them, any information that you want to know is all on the government website, Companies House. Knock yourself out. All my accounts are on there. Crack on. Yeah. I've got nothing to hide. All my taxes paid.
Can I just add something here as well? When Neil was sending emails to Tom McCormack, he was saying, look, I'm not happy paying the money directly to the mother because it will not be used on my daughter. It'll be used with her habit. And therefore, I would like to suggest that we do a financial ward of court where I know that my daughter will be provided for with the money I spend, I pay for her.
Do you mind me showing something that you were talking about, Craig? No? That Craig sent me a photo. Do you mind me showing it?
No.
Can I show it?
Yeah.
Is this what you're on about, Craig? I have intervened again. Is this the one?
That there is when I went to court. That one there, Uncle Fester, is when I went to court.
Yeah.
And that there is where the judge, when I'd raised my welfare concerns, so I had to go to a tribunal. This is how far they have taken it, that they have taken me to a tribunal. This is after 2 to 3 years of me telling them and Craig that there are major welfare concerns, and now it has finally happened. We submitted all the evidence to court of all the child protection plans that were in place, all the safeguarding issues, the copy of the Thames Valley Police report in terms of the investigation that they were carrying out. The toxic trio had been identified. Now, social services run a mile when you mention the toxic trio. I don't know if you're aware of what the toxic trio is.
No.
Right. So there was an independent study that was done on social services' failings after Baby P. And the independent study said more than likely where the toxic trio is identified, which is drugs, mental health, and domestic violence, will result in the death of that child who is in the care of child protection services. All 3 of those areas were identified in my daughter's case.
Yeah.
So my daughter, potentially speaking, was the only living witness as to what had gone on in that house.
Yeah.
Still at this point, Child Protection Services put my daughter back into the house with the mother and her partner because they were out on police investigation. So still at that point, I had never been assessed. To this day, I have never been assessed that would I be a suitable parent for my daughter and can I get her to school on time? So, but we don't want to go down that road because obviously, Uncle Fester, you've just flagged up that there.
Yeah.
Could you read paragraph 15?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Mr. Wilcox was clear, page 82, that he would not pay CMS to pay the mother. He was clear that he was not refusing to pay for his daughter. As far as he was concerned, he had done nothing wrong. He repeatedly accused CMS of being dishonest and did not wish to discuss any evidence which did not support his views. His view, as expressed at the bottom of page 84, is that the system is completely biased. He asked me to make findings in respect of the welfare issues and repeated that I could not as it is outside of my jurisdiction. I repeated that I could not as it was outside my jurisdiction. So that's
Exactly.
the MP, is it?
No,
So
that's
how's
the
that of
judge.
his jurisdiction?
That's the judge. So
That's the judge.
the judge outside my
I didn't get that. I really how
his view, right? What it is, when he turned around and said the CMS of being dishonest and did not wish to discuss the.
I said that.
You said that.
The CMS were being dishonest, and then what he said is that he was not prepared to take the welfare concerns of my daughter into account, as it was outside of his jurisdiction. That is the judicial. Now, here's a judge from the judiciary. So Section 2 of the Child Support Act, which Craig will explain a lot better than what you and I can. So go ahead, Craig.
Well, Section 2 is the welfare of the child. And it's not just financial. It's all about the mental well-being of the child, the security of the child. All of that can be seen in Section 1 of the Children's Act 1989. Everything's there. You know, it's not just financial support for the child, it's everything. Simple as that. And that's what, Section 2 there is Section 2 is the welfare of the child is going to be taken into consideration when an assessment's made.
So I deliberately wanted you to read paragraph 15 there. So Uncle Fester, with what Craig has just said, could you please read paragraph 14 of that?
I'm glad you just said that, because I've just read it and I'm a bit shocked by this paragraph. All right? Because this is now
the judge.
I intervened again at this point to explain the jurisdiction of this tribunal. I explained that I could not look at a report which Mr. Wilcox wanted to show me because it was outside of my jurisdiction. Mr. Wilcox responded, this is you responded. What you are telling me is that the government and the judiciary condone law breaking. He said that Miss Konarzewska, I can't even say her name, is using CMS to bully him. He would give his daughter anything, and his main thing is to get his daughter out of that house. He will not give money to drug dealing. The system has to change. This is still you. He asked CMS to check his 2016-2017 tax return, but they have had no interest in that and just proceeded with the liability orders application. So that's disgusting, because they got a duty of care to you at the end of the day. As a judge, the judge has got a duty of care. Anything being raised towards the child safety, which it is there, the judge has got a duty of care to the child and to yourself as well, because you are raising concerns as a father. So
more importantly, I was trying to show him the report of all of the concerns, and it is a list of convictions that have gone on in that house since 2012. The amount of times that the police have been called there, the amount of domestic violence, why child protection services are involved, and the judge had no interest. And I actually attended that hearing with my business partner at the time because I wanted to take him as a witness. And my business partner said, "Oh my God, all you are interested in is his money. They have no interest in the child, and all the government seem to be doing is portraying this child poverty, child poverty, child poverty, child poverty.
In the best interest,
That's
best
all,
interest of
and
child,
the best
child
interest of
welfare,
child.
blah, blah, blah.
Well, now we have it there in black and white.
Yeah.
That judges from the judiciary have no interest in the welfare of the child, only what's in my bank account.
Is it? And here's the question I'm going to pose back to the both of you. It's not, it's outside my jurisdiction. Okay. If it's outside his jurisdiction, that's telling me that that's telling me he's just like an MP. At the end of the day, his hands are tied himself, and the system we've got is in place, and it's going back again to civil servants, senior civil servants, and the systems we've got in place seem to be all, because don't forget now, we're going to go on now to, don't forget who runs our courts and our justice systems today.
If I could just stop you just there, if I could just stop you just before we get into that. Me being the way that I am, when the judge told me that his hands are tied, I said, tell me who's tying your hands. And I said, and I will go and see them. I said to the judge, if you don't have the minerals to say to whoever's telling you to tie, that is tying your hands, I said, tell me who they are. And I said, I will knock on their door and I will get your hands untied. So who is tying your hands? And do you know what? It's going to bring us back to this same company that keeps coming up. It keeps coming up with immigration. It keeps coming up with test and trace. It keeps coming up with Department of Work and Pensions. It keeps coming up with our refuse collection. Their name keeps coming up when you talk about tagging. Their name comes up when you talk about the judiciary. Their name comes up when you talk about defence. Their name keeps coming up all the time. Serco. We know that Serco's into the judiciary.
Yeah.
We know they're into the judiciary. They've got the tagging.
But they're in the courts as well. They're in the justice system. They've got the contract for the courts and the justice system. So the problem you've got is a lot of the civil servants, when they finish in civil servants and they get their big pensions, they jump over then to the private sector, and they go on. A lot of them go on as directors of companies or board advisors or consultants, there's big money in that game. And Serco, I tell you what we could do here, because we're coming up to an hour, and that was just your case we talked about. No, all right, and we could do one of these separately just for Serco, because this is absolutely disgusting.
I'll tell you what we could do here, and I'm going to ask you a very interesting question here, Uncle Fester. Yeah. And I know that you're an intelligent guy, and I know that Craig is highly intelligent, and I know that he knows the Constitution inside out and backwards, and he knows the law inside out and backwards. Yeah. But the question that I would like to ask any of these people, we have the judiciary, we have CAFCAS, we have Child Protection Services, we have social services, we have the child maintenance, and we have the CMG group. Now, all of these so-called government bodies all portray themselves as independent. How can they be independent if they are all taking the same policy from Serco? And I bet nobody can explain that. Why we're all led to believe that all of these government agencies are independent, Uncle Fester. when they're all working for the same company? How can they be independent?
What they've done is, the way they set it up is I think it's the Crown Commission, or there's a department which gives out the procurement contracts, and what it seems to have happened, the civil sector actually run all the departments, all the services. What they do, they're splitting them down to business units. So at the end of the day, they write these policies. A lot of the policies they write, and then they say, right, we got all these policies, but then they bring in a privatised company like into the NHS, which could be Circle, but Circle's the biggest one at the moment going in. And at the end of the day, Circle, what they do, they actually break it down into little business units. So there's different policies for that. They work differently around each section, and there's we haven't really got a grip of it, and everybody's doing their own thing, and the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. That's where I believe we are, because they've got so many sectors they're in. If you look at all the sectors Circle are in, they're little business units going in, and they're winning these contracts and putting people in. And I believe that's what's going on, is because look at track and trace.
My main concern is that they're not independent. And when all these government bodies were set up, they were set up to be independent.
Yeah, no.
Whether they put business units in, whatever they do, they cannot be independent. And hence the reason why the whole of the family, everything that comes under the family court umbrella, which is your child maintenance, which is your CAFCAS, which is your social services. When someone asks me the question, why is the system like that? I say, look at the industry. It is a multi-billion-pound industry. There is no finer weapon. There's no bigger weapon out there. You can talk about nuclear weapons, atomic bombs, 500-pound bombs. But when it comes to your children, how can they capitalize on profit? How can they make a profit from causing all of this misery through the family courts, through the child maintenance group? And when have you ever known that you take the other party to court, but you can't claim the fees back from the other court? So there's no repercussions for the resident parent to stop contact, because the system supports the resident parent from stopping contact. There's no repercussions. There's no prison. There's no prison sentences.
No.
There's no... I mean, Families Need Fathers recently published a report that only 1% of court orders, 1%, it was something like 1.36% of court orders is ever enforced.
And it's just, there's a law to themselves, because they're protected, and they're protected by, it's horrible to say this, is who runs our government at the moment. It's the people behind the MPs, it's the special advisors, it's the civil servants, but behind them is the corporations, and that's the way it's going. If you look at the councils now at the moment, councils are being held to ransom, local councils, on COVID. They should be doing the testing on COVID. It shouldn't be privatised. The councils are running out of money. A lot of councils, I think it's section 114, where they go bankrupt, or they haven't got no money left, so they drove to bankruptcy. And I was listening the other day, and there was a lot of councils up north, a lot of councils across the UK who were struggling. They're running out of money, and they're running out very fast. And some of them have actually held their hands up and said, if we don't get more money, we are going to go bankrupt. Now I'm going to ask you the question, is what happens if one of the councils go bankrupt? It's an ideal opportunity. Yes, it's an ideal opportunity to make a city, London City. Yeah. and bring in a corporation like they do in London, in the city, where London Corporation...
TfL. TfL is part of the corporation.
And that's
they
it.
Run London.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what you just touched on, just very, very briefly there, is about the local authorities. And the local authorities, why are they not doing the test and tracing? Well, the military was doing it.
Yeah.
In all fairness to the government, because I will give credit where it's due, when COVID-19 landed on our shores, they reacted with everything they had at its disposal. They mobilised the whole of the army, the whole of the military. They mobilised army reserves. They mobilised everybody because of what could possibly happen. Yeah. And they wanted everything at their disposal. So in the initial time that we were mobilised, because of force protection and that sort of stuff, you know, our main orders at that time was force protection. Under no circumstances can the army start becoming ill, because they're the last line of defence. Yeah. So the last thing that they wanted was, which makes perfect sense, was the military to start going down with viruses, COVID-19, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So the military was mobilised, and I actually felt very proud to serve my country. I need to place that on the record, and I would do it all over again. Because do you know what? The military actually got to serve the people. Yeah. We are completely independent in the military. Yeah. We don't hold any political views or anything like that. But we went out there, and the British public, they were reassured, they felt safe, and they felt that there was a presence, because we were used to roll out all the mobile testing units. Now, the testing unit that I was with, one of the testing units that I was running, even though my platoon commander would say, you weren't running it, but technically speaking, I was making it happen. He'd just sort of say, right, we're going there today, and then I'd make it happen, kind of thing. We were bouncing out 400 tests a day.
Well,
that's a lot of tests.
I can tell you now, as an MTU manager for Sodexo, I had 400 tests on my van. We took over the vans from the military, and we got to a stage where we were only allowed to use 60 tests on sites. And the biggest site in Heathrow, which has got 10 lanes, and you've got 6 self-testing lanes and 4 test administrating test lanes, which is the biggest in the UK. They were only testing 80 to 120 people over a 4-week duration in August, a day.
You see that's worrying. That's very, very worrying, because with us, we had 300 tests in the mobile testing units when we first took over, and then they upped it to 400 because of the flow, and obviously the government realised the capability of what the military could actually do. And you know what? We were on top of the virus, because the tests were getting done. The data was being analysed. We knew who had it and who didn't have it. And the R rate fell significantly, and it was looking round sort of August time. Do you know what? We are well on top of this virus. This might be gone within a very short space of time, because we were reducing the amount of people that it could infect. So the question that I asked, you've got the military who are being paid anyway. The military are being paid anyway. We're not at war at the moment. We're not in Iraq. We're not in Afghanistan. Right? We've got skeleton crews in those areas. But we're not at war. This isn't like when the Afghan conflicts were going on, the Opheric, the Optelics and stuff like that. We're not at war at the moment. So why were the military pulled off of it and it was given to Serco? Since Serco have taken over, the infection rate has absolutely skyrocketed within 6 weeks. But my theory, it's not conspiracy, it's a theory, have they allowed this infection rate to get out of control because the government have introduced the fining system.
Well,
they send you a text message. You have to self-isolate for 14 days or you get £1,000 fine.
Yeah. But not only that, it's now, they're at the situation now that they can't go back. They've got to keep going forward on this. And if you see how much, you know as well as I do how much money's being made out there. Circle have just made 160 to 180 million profit. They reckon they'll make 400 million profit by March next year. People, consultants, are claiming, companies are claiming £7,000 for a consultant. It's a private
per day, isn't it? 7,000 per day, isn't it?
Per day. And the private sector at the moment, the corporations, and it's not just Serco anymore. It's you've got Sodexo, you've got Capita, you've got Deloitte, the main one on there. You've got Serco, Mighty. You've got a lot of people, a lot of companies now jumping on that because them tests cost £300 a test, I believe. All right, which is. It's remarkable what's going on, and you did. Oh, my hands up! You got the R rate down. Track and trace. The system has failed, and it's just there's no command. There's no command there. The left hand doesn't. It goes back to where we talk about when it becomes privatized. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And it's all about the money. What can we? It's like that. What can we take? What can we have? What can we take?
Do you think MPs are getting backhanders from this? Obviously, stocks and shares in.
Craig, I'll be honest with you. I listened to an MP who's just resigned. I believe, I'm not sure if he was Conservative. Chris Green, I believe his name is. He's from up your way. I'm gonna have to reach out to him because he resigned. He was on Anna Breeze's channel. Because he found that his hands were tied and he couldn't move and he couldn't get things done because, as we said it previously when we talked to Noel, was his hands were tied. He couldn't, to get something done, he had to try and move mountains. So he had enough, and he said it was a farce. It's just a farce. So he left. And that's the saddening part about it is, well, CMS. Forget CMS. It's not CMS. It's CMG, Child Maintenance Group. Child Maintenance Group, we showed it last week, Craig. Child Maintenance Group. I'll show you it again. All right. You go to Wikipedia, you go anywhere, you go in any one of there. And what it says is Child Maintenance Group is an external organisation working for the Department of Work and Pensions in Great Britain and department communities. At the end of the day, they're responsible for, the CMG is responsible for implementing the Child Support Act. So how can you have an external group of party organisation enforcing an act, a law?
Well, I can tell you what is going on. I can tell you exactly what's going on. This is a limited company in terms of the law who are sending out contracts. When they send you that brown envelope, what they're actually doing is they're sending you a contract. Then what they're doing is they're using all their powers to bully you into that contract.
Yeah.
What is the actual legal name of it, Craig, when under duress?
Under duress, yeah.
Yeah.
They are, and the judiciary are supporting that as to what's going on. I do firmly believe that the MPs are just not big enough to stand up to the likes of Serco and CMG Group and stuff like that. Yeah.
The Child Maintenance Group is an external organisation working for Department of Work and Pensions in Great Britain. But then it says the CMG is responsible for implementing the Child Support Act 1991. So that external limited company is now like the sheriff.
But then what I would like to know is, like all civil servants and anybody who works for government, what security clearance they've got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Craig is X2 para. I'm in the military. They're handling very sensitive data. What training have they had? Yeah, to access that sort of information. I mean, we have known where veterans in the past have been investigated by the child maintenance in Northern Ireland.
In Belfast, their office in Belfast.
In Belfast.
I went absolutely berserk. I went berserk. You know, I've done a tour of Northern Ireland, and my case was at Belfast. In Belfast, and I was like, "What are you saying that?"
So this is the biggest problem I've got. All right, and I've just clicked onto it. Is the CMG is responsible for implementing a Child Support Act 1991, which is a law, a binding law. All right. And substantial legislation in the form of its two services, the Child Support Agency, and from 2012 its long-term successor, Child Maintenance Service. So what that's virtually just said to me is, it's not a DWP who run CMS, CSA. It's actually the CMG. It's the limited companies, privatised companies, and it's a private company who is upholding the law, and it's a money ringer. It's absolutely, they're using the law to screw you. I'm sorry to tell you this, gents, and anybody else watching this, after what I've just said. That's the evidence. It's there, black and white, and you can't get it. And what I've just read, I can't get over it, because how can you have a limited company upholding law?
These people don't even know what the law is in the CMS.
They don't have a clue. And then it brings us on to our second point. Are they bound by the Civil Service Code? No, they're not.
No.
These people are non-accountable to anybody. They're not even accountable to those that are elected by the people. They're not even accountable to them.
Right. They're responsible for the implementing Child Support Act and the other legislations. So that has took it out the jurisdiction of the judge. That's actually taken it away from the judge. The Houses of Parliament, the House of Lords have taken it away and given it to a limited company. So the judge hasn't got no say over it, because that's nothing to do with him anymore.
But then the very scary thing is that judges are not enforcing the law, they're enforcing policy.
Yes.
A limited company
policy is not
law.
Legally enforceable.
Policy is not legally enforceable. So as you say, I am so sorry to everybody who's out there who is paying the child maintenance, but all they're doing is agreeing to their contract, and then they're enforcing their policy.
It's absolutely disgusting when you look at it. And, you know, when questions got to be asked about this is where the answers have got to be. And the people watching this who are being chased by the CMS need to sit down and listen to them words I just used. The CMG, a limited external organisations are responsible for implementing the Child Support Act and subsequent, I can't even say it now, legislation in the form of, yes, that's it, and legislation in the form of its two services, Child Support Agency and Child Maintenance Services. So they're above the law. That's it.
They're above the law. Be you so high and mighty, the law's above you.
And the question is now, DWP, because on the DWP annual report, if you remember when we spoke about it last week, Craig, all right, their financial, what I can't understand is, on their financials report, it didn't have CMS on there, Craig, on their annual financials. And it actually said it went back to the Treasury and CMS CMG. So, my question is, the 39 million which got made last year, profit, where is that going? Is that going to the company? Because that's what it seems to be happening at the moment, just by what I've just read. And what I've read in the DWP.
How can they be having profit when the money's for children, allegedly?
Well, because they take 20% off. Children don't take 20%. They take 20% off the payer, and then they take the 4% off the receiver. So that money goes into a pot.
Altogether.
But whose pocket is it going into? That's the question.
Well, I would hazard a guess, and I would say Rupert Soames. I would say it's going in his pocket.
Well, it's going in somebody's pocket, so it's not definitely not going in our government's, our DWP's pocket.
Just for all the listeners, I think it would be very good as well if a lot of the listeners knew the level of corruption as to what's going on. Who is Rupert Soames? Nobody seems to know who Rupert Soames is because he doesn't actually have a connection with the name of who his grandfather was. And Rupert Soames is Winston Churchill's grandson.
Yes.
That's who Rupert Soames is.
Yeah. Yes.
And yes, so all the listeners that are listening to this, they now know who the CEO of Serco is. And the CEO, there you go, I'm calling him out.
Yes.
Rupert Soames. Winston Churchill's grandson. Who is one of their major shareholders?
Well,
Philip May.
Yeah, I can't find the evidence at the moment, but Philip May, Philip May is Capital Group. And Capital Group have got so many investments. It's 1.4 trillion, I believe it is, or it might be up to the 3 by now. But, you're talking a massive hitter with a lot of corporations, and he actually dropped out of politics and went into the corporation world. And he was the rock. Very rich man, and he was the rock for Theresa May. But when you were, when you're in them positions, then the questions have got to be asked, because why are we privatising everything? So that's where we are. I tell you what, we're going to have to come back on and do a little bit of showing people.
We need a part 2.
We need a part 2, definitely, because we're coming up to 120 at the moment. All right, this is a long one we've done. Let's do a part 2 on the actual organisations, the corporations, and let's talk about them.
The evidence. We've given everybody
a flavour. A flavour, yeah.
We've given them a taste. We've given them a flavour. I've explained a bit about my background, what my involvement is with Craig. And, the part 2 is where we show all of the listeners and hopefully the rest of the public, the rest of the world, the facts and figures as to what's going on.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
Serco, like I say, Serco are in our lives from rubbish collection to immigration.
All the way through.
Rubbish,
all the way through, man. IT, GCHQ, you're talking everything. Come on, facial recognition. You're talking everything. We've become it's unbelievable. Anyway, gents, let's cap it up now, because we're an hour and 20 minutes. That's a long episode, actually. Thank you very much for everything, though. All right, anybody struggling out there, all right, reach out, because don't struggle. We've all struggled, but things come out in the wash. Just keep going, all right, and talk to people, because at this moment in time, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. All right, people are struggling. I'm struggling. I know there's other people struggling. Craig's probably struggling. Noel's probably got his own struggles on. All right, talk to people. Don't bottle it up and don't think you're against it by yourself. Look, reach out, all right, talk. Get in touch with myself or Craig, or, if you're friends with one of us, get in touch with us, all right? That's all I'm going to say. Have a good night. I love you all. Noel, anything you want to say?
No, just thanks a lot for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's good to finally meet, and it's good to see you, Craig. And I think the battle will still continue for a very, very long time. But the main thing is, I can't see anything changing for a very long time. But what we have to do is just make the public aware of what's going on, and do it through fact. What I want to do just before we sign off is make it very, very clear that we are not on about conspiracy theories.
No.
There's a big difference between what we're saying and what conspiracy theorists are saying. Yeah. We're talking purely facts and figures. And that's all that I wanted to say.
For truth, you've got to be able to qualify and verify. All right? And the things we are looking at, we're qualifying and verifying through experience and knowledge, and actually through black and white in reports. All right? So yeah, this ain't conspiracy. All right, Craig, anything you want to say, Bat?
Good night.
And that's it. Right, thank you very much. No, been an absolute pleasure. We're going to go for part 2, so watch out. And thank you very much for coming in. And love you all. Goodbye.